Hi, how are you? Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Craig. Melody was a little bit under the weather today, so she's not going to be able to join us, but I have her poetry and her books, and hopefully she'll jump on the chat, and she'll be able to still talk to you all. But thank you, Craig, for joining me today. I am so excited. I like you're one of my poet crushes. I love your words. They're so powerful. And when I found out that April was Poetry Month, I was like, I have to get all my word crushes on so I could talk to them. But how are you? How's your Sunday going?
Thank you. Sunday's going good. The weekend's been busy but productive,
Mhm.
which is I hate for it to be the other way around where it's just busy but not productive. But yeah, it was very productive. I was at a Black maternal health conference earlier today. As you know, I just graduated nursing school, and yeah, I'm just trying to kind of do a little bit of everything, learn as much as I can.
Man, that must have been like you still going through you were still going through school through the pandemic, right?
Yes, I
Ah, geez.
started nursing school 2020 September, fall 2020. So that's same here.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah, I
you
was
whole
thinking.
the whole
Go
time
ahead.
you were like online, or how did you guys?
It was a hybrid. So some
Mhm.
was online, some was in person. I I don't I got patient contact. Like my training was with patient contact. We were working in the hospital, so
Mhm.
we didn't miss out on that too much. And I would say they did as good a job as they could given the pandemic to make sure that there were no gaps in what we were supposed to receive.
So you got to see like firsthand, like
Yes, but
the front
we didn't
lines.
we didn't see COVID patients. They kept us
Mhm.
clear of COVID patients. Yeah, just for safety.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's wow. Like that's. I mean, nursing school is hard on its own, and then you added that. Like that's amazing. I would have been like, I don't know. I think I have to hold on one more year. But, anyways, so we can get a little bit of your background. When did you join? What made you join the Air Force? What year? You could tell us, a little bit of history of whatever wanna share
Sure,
with us.
sure. So I joined the military in 2009, July 21st, 2009. I was shipped off to boot camp, U.S. Air Force. I became a medic, an aerospace medical technician is the term. The code is 4N051. Um, and why I joined. Wow. I wrote a whole essay on that called Thank You
Really?
for Your Service. Yeah. And I used parts of that essay in one of the poems you might hear tonight. But I joined because I recognized that the community that I grew up in, the place where I was living, um, it didn't have the resources that I needed to achieve the height of my ambitions. I wanted to be more. And I remember just saying to myself, if I want to be bigger than the circumstances I'm currently in, maybe it makes sense to join a bigger organization. And to me, the biggest organization there was the military.
Mhm.
Um, Now, that doesn't mean I'm a big advocate of people joining the military because fundamentally, I think that um, I've never actually said this outside of my essay, but I think that it's a terrible decision when joining the military, signing your name on a dotted line and swearing an oath to defend your country, essentially, which is signing your name to join an organization where you kill and might be killed, when that's an easier thing to do than going to school and getting an education. When
Right.
that's easier than going to school, something needs to be course corrected right there. Yeah.
Yeah, but so, I mean, that's heavy. That's heavy. I think that's a lot to unpack. I
Mhm.
think, but see, I, I've been like kind of wrestling with this myself
Mhm. Mhm.
because I think the military does a really good job at, like, picking the parts of you that are not whole, that
Mm,
crave raising your status in life, right? And
mhm.
sometimes it's like it's yeah, like that, like, it's easier to put on a uniform and be violent than it is to try to fight your way through the bureaucratic stuff to go to school,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
that's it's yeah. And I think that's why I think a lot of us, and I think that's where the moral injury comes, you
Mm,
know,
mhm.
in place because it's kind of like you trade off, right? You trade off your morality, your ethics for a chance at being better, at having a higher state, in life.
Yeah, I was just texting a veteran buddy of mine, who we were in some of tech school together. I said, I'm in a state of chronic moral dilemma, where I am using the same instruments to achieve economic mobility that I would also want to dismantle because they're interconnected, to systems of oppression.
Mm,
And yeah, both things are true.
right.
Right, on one hand, I'm trying to break generational curses. I'm trying to help myself and help my family uplift and help others. Um, and the way forward seems to be playing with the same instruments that can sometimes cause harm to others.
Right.
It is possible to be both oppressed and an oppressor at the same time, and the world almost makes it so it's inevitably so.
Right. It forces you to stuff yourself into that category.
Mm,
It's funny because I actually had, like most of my paintings, and most of my sculptures, I get them from dreams, right? And
mhm,
like I'm a very lucid like dreamer. Like I
mhm,
remember my dreams, and like I'm telling you, like I've been wrestling with this idea of what is really freedom, right?
mhm,
And why are we
mm,
so afraid of it,
mm,
right? Because we've been taught from when we can think at 4 or 5 years old that the thing to do is to be a good boy and a good girl and stand in line and do your homework, and your worth is based on how much you can produce
mm,
based on their standards, right?
mm,
And we grow up like this. So so when you want to kind of step out of this production line, everybody looks at you like you're crazy,
mm,
right?
mm,
But like, and then we're taught to be afraid of this freedom, right?
mm,
But if you find a job, a 9 to 5, and you fit right into it, then it's like, okay, you're doing good.
mm,
You're
mhm,
being productive, you're being successful, right? But if you dare to have that dream to be different, to try to find your way without having to be subjected into this structure,
mhm,
like
yeah,
there's something off about you, right?
yeah, mm,
And I struggle with that because I feel it with myself and I feel it with my kids,
mm,
especially like my son is he's a different thinker and he's so smart, but like he has, um he learns his own way,
mm,
and then at school it's really hard sometimes, and like, the teachers are always sending us emails like, hey, he can't stay still, he has to get up, he gets in trouble at school because
mhm,
during his free time he
mhm,
wants to read his books,
mm,
and they're like, but he can't be reading all the time, and I'm like, what do you mean,
mm,
like he just wants to read, like let him
mm,
read. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm,
But and so I struggle with that because like I don't want them to fall into that themselves, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And but so okay, so let's kind of going along the same line though, but that are you a first generation? Were you born here or
I was born here. I'm a first gen American. Yeah.
Okay, so but your parents weren't, right?
Yeah, they were born in Jamaica.
Okay. So
Mm.
was it a cultural thing for them to for you to join the military?
My father, sorry, I don't know if you can hear that horn blasting outside my window.
Yeah. Yeah, that's New York for you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn. Um, it's coming closer. My father was a big advocate for me joining the military. My mother, my grandmother, they were pretty much against it. Um, but to, you know, in my father's defense, and this is something that I think I'll say immigrant parents, they don't articulate well, but they mean so well, right? They come here and it's almost like they inherently understand that they don't have all of the resources that a typical, is that even the right word? They know that there's something that they won't have once they get here, that those who are born here, who are maybe more well adjusted, who are well integrated have. And so all they know is the security of what having a job means. And
Mm,
so their big thing, that's why it's, the stereotypical immigrant is go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be something, not pursue your dreams, go be something that is secure because we are leaving our home country because we're escaping some sort of economic insecurity. And so coming here, it's not about pursuing your passion. It's not like pursuing your passions are that's a privilege. Right now, we're just trying to have financial
survive.
security, something stable. And so my father was all about do something that gives you that stability because in his eyes he knows what it's like to go hungry. He knows what it's like to not have shoes to walk to school. He knows what it's like to wear the same pair of pants and just have patchwork pants your entire life. All right. And so for him, the big thing was stability. So he was always for the military because the military was secure. It was financial security. It was job security. It was a path to achieving a level of social status that would provide me with some sort of uh, identity to navigate this new world. Right.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, he was for it. Mom, not so much.
It's funny you said that because that was exactly like kind of my case too. Like my dad, um, he was like the equivalent of the FBI in Peru, right?
Mm,
So he
mhm,
comes from like a police background, a military background.
mhm,
So I always grew up like, hey, I want to be a police like my dad, right?
mhm,
But then when we came here, we left Peru because of, the terrorism or whatever.
mhm,
So like I always had that in my mind, like I want to be like him. But then when we got here, I think that played a big part of it, of their the mentality, because they sacrificed everything they knew at in Peru
mm,
and to try to make it here, right? And then,
mhm,
like you said, it's just the job stability is the goal, right?
mhm,
As long as you can take care of your family or whatever. Um, so he wanted me to be a lawyer,
mm,
and I'm the first of three girls. So he paid for my paralegal degree, right?
mhm,
It was just an associate. I figured I was like, now that I have my degree, I'll put myself through law school, right,
mhm,
for him. Like I really wanted to do it for them. And then 9/11 happened,
mhm,
and then something clicked in
mhm,
me, and I was like, no, I have to do something. I think it was I think it brought back a lot of memories of why we even left Peru in the first place,
mhm,
And then I was like, now I'm old enough to protect my family. I was 21 when it happened.
mhm,
And then I saw one of the Saturdays, I saw the recruits running with, the
mhm,
police. And I was coming back with from the grocery store with my mom, and I was like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna join the Marine Corps." She's like, "Okay, crazy," because I always have these crazy ideas. And then Monday, I walked into the recruiting station. I was like, "Hey, how do I sign up?"
mhm,
And then mind you, like, I was a paralegal then. I was already working, so like I was wearing like a suit and like a skirt suit or whatever. And I walked into the recruiting office, and the recruiter's like, "Don't you want the Air Force?" I'm like, "I walked in here." I was like, "Wait a minute," you know? And then yeah, and my mom cried the whole time. She's like, "Don't do this. They're gonna send you to war." Like she was like,
mhm,
very, very not with it. But yeah, I was asking that because I think Like, our parents is a big, I think they'll also teeter between like, being proud and also really afraid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when I deployed, my mom and my dad, like, their health just, like, they took it really hard, and I think it was
Mhm.
'cause I'm, like, the first of 3 girls too,
Mhm.
So, how was it when you were, over there? Were your
I
parents
was I was
Oh,
never overseas.
oh, okay, okay.
During my deployment window, I was sent to a CASIV unit, a contingency aerospace staging facility. I was safe. I was right in Maryland at Andrews Air Force Base.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I was where I worked. My duty station was in the emergency department on the ground floor, and the CASIV unit was in the basement. So I deployed to the basement of my hospital.
He said I deploy you to the basement. Oh my god, that's
So
funny.
the mission there was to take care of those who were injured overseas. So I didn't, while I was never exposed to the danger of battle, I saw all of the battle injuries. I was taking care of those and coming in for the first time, landing back in the United States, and then we'd have continuity of care, stabilize them, give them what they need, change any dressings, replace, give them their medications, replace any IVs or any other medical instruments, and then within a day or two or three we would send them to their respective duty stations in the United States. So the mission was about receiving the patients, taking care of them, and then sending them on their way.
That's pretty heavy though. I mean, when you think about it, because you got to see the humanity of the military. You know what I mean? And not only just the human, but like the wounded humanity, because that's when I think it becomes real, that it's not just a game and we're not practicing and we're not just drilling. Like, this is real. We really signed up on that dotted line to, like,
Yeah,
you know?
um, yeah, it really hit me hard. I think when I saw a young a young man and his wife. Um, Young man he was in the army. It couldn't have been more than 22 years old, and no arms, no legs.
Mm,
His young wife feeding him, and you see that neither of them signed up for this. You're
mhm,
you're you're in your early 20s, maybe 19. They could have for all I've known, they could have been 19. And within a matter of years, this young couple, this young married couple, is having to deal with this massive loss,
right,
this injury. And when we talk about the cost of war, those I don't think those images come to people's minds.
mhm,
It's I don't have all I'm not prepared to say all the words that can be said about that situation right now, but that image really stuck with me. And it was that image that I think stuck with me for a long time. Um, the injury after injury, just I remember there were holes in torsos that I could fit my whole fists in. We have things called wound vacs where you pack the wound because there's a missing chunk of body. So you pack it with a sponge and you attach a vacuum to it to drain off the liquid. And that there were those images stuck with me. And yes, we have some of the greatest medical technology in the world and we can patch those wounds up, but that was when it began for the first time to dawn on me that there was something more to healing beyond the physical body.
mhm,
I never developed the language, the words, or the tools to describe it to myself until Decruit,
right.
until I discovered Decruit and the gang of veterans in Decruit, the nonprofit run by Stefan Wolfert. um, they provided me with the language to understand and articulate and process what I had seen. They also helped me understand the role of arts, the role of community. That's the big thing. The role of community in healing.
Mhm.
Um, I never really understood the value of just being able to say to an audience of willing participants there to listen to you, not there to be entertained, not there for their pleasure or the value of what they can take from you, but to be um, to bear witness
Yeah.
to what I had to say, and how just being in community of these veterans, how healing that was for me. And that was I discovered, or I found, and connected with Decruit in 2018, and since then I've just been part of this. I think I told you the other day, or I told it to MJ the other day. I used the word veteran underground. All of us veterans that were in our own sectors and we're doing our things, and then we meet up every once in a while to do something like this, or something, be on stage for a moment, or have an art show for a moment. I call it the veteran underground. That's the tribe of veterans in this artistic space. And oh man, that's another community that's developed.
I love that. I think that's my when I feel most at ease,
Mm,
when like there's a group of us that are we're all alchemizing our pain in
mm,
different avenues, right? In
mm,
different venues, but then when we all come together, it's like we just have this like transmutation, like, like that poem when you were like, when I'm in uniform, I'm thankful for my violence, but when I'm in a hoodie, like I'm, feared. Like that line, it just stuck in my head for like ever since you said it, and I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? And I think it's inspiring. I think that's the part to me that um really keeps me like motivated,
mm,
because I think you have a way of expressing things that are different than mine, right?
mhm,
And even though we're looking at the same situation, the same thing, sometimes the way it's presented to you, it makes it click for you, you know?
mhm,
Like I
mhm,
never thought about that until that moment. And I
mhm,
was like, and I think that's where I was having like that internal conflict with me, cuz like I'm always saying like, just because now I choose not to be violent, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
there's always like, I think that's why I have this like jerk reaction when people thank me and they're like, "Oh, thank you, you're a hero," right?
mhm,
Like that literally, if I feel like I get punched in my stomach, like I
mm,
don't like that
mm,
sentiment. And like I understand why they saying it, and like I'm grateful for the support to us, not the institution, not what we were told or we're ordered to do,
yeah,
but for us, the humans that are, that get to lace up the boots, right?
mm,
But in the concept of why I'm being thanked,
mhm,
it always makes me feel a little like uneasy, right? And I never understood why
mm,
until you said those lines. And I was like,
mm,
bam, that is why. That is
mm,
why I feel uncomfortable when I'm thankful for my violence, you know?
mm. I never knew that. Thank you for saying, and you said it to me the day you heard it.
Right.
I think I never digested it until I heard it just now. Thank you. I never Yeah. It was that discomfort with being thanked that was my first kind of thought that branched off into like a million other thoughts.
Mm,
Because it's like, you know, I, in the essay I wrote, um, I reflect on this moment where, being in New York, being in a black male in New York City, I walk into a store, especially when I was a teenager, walk into a store, and you're being watched by the store owner the whole time, right? So you learn to police your own movements. You learn to silent, to not be seen, not be heard. You go in, you buy your stuff, and you leave. Minimal interaction, make everything transactional. No highs, no buys, no pleasantries. I'm here to buy this thing, and I'm very obvious when I pick up something on the shelf. But when I was in training in not boot camp, but what comes after, which is tech school,
mhm,
learning my trade for the military. I'm in Wichita, Texas, and I go to the mall, and I was like, yes, this is like, going from New York City to Wichita, Texas. It's like this there's no people here.
Yeah.
And the so I find the mall, of course, because I'm from New York City. I go to the most populated place in Wichita, Texas. So I'm at the mall, and people, and I'm in uniform because at that time you can't leave base unless you're in uniform in my blues. And people are thanking me, and or they're smiling at me, they're thanking me, and it's catching me off guard because it's confronting my New York state of mind defense mechanism, which is to not be seen or heard and be quiet. And it wasn't until I catch my reflection in the mirror where I'm like, oh, this is what they're thanking me for. And I'm like, wow, if I was in any other garment of clothing, I wouldn't I wouldn't be received this way.
Right.
Um, and yeah, honestly, the question that popped in my mind was like, oh my gosh, is this what white people feel all the time? That was the thought. As
Right.
innocent as it was to be in a place where I am, where people are welcoming me, smiling at me, and I'm not seen as a threat by just existing in this commercial space. That was new for me. And
Right.
then when the thought later went to, okay, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. What am I being thanked for? Because I haven't done anything yet. I'm still in training. Are you thanking me for the conditions of a disenfranchised community that led to me having to decide to go to the military? Because if you're thanking me for joining, my reason for joining can't be set. My reason for joining the military can't be separated from the disenfranchised community that I come from. Because if my community, I cannot say that if my community was not disenfranchised, that I would have still joined.
Right.
And so those two can't be separated. And so if I always think, if you want to help veterans, help them before they become one. Make the
Right.
world more egalitarian. Make joining the military an actual choice. And you make it a choice when it's on the even playing field as going to school, as pursuing a trade, when you're not burdened with economic insecurity, social immobility, when those burdens are off of your back, then the option of joining the military is actually an option and not something you're forced into, not something you're coerced into by circumstance.
As a visual artist, I go back to the first line you said before, and I could picture somebody having like a rifle or a book, right? And
Mm,
like whichever one, like that's your choice right there, right? You pick up a book or a rifle, like, and a lot of times the book's heavier when you think about it. I think about what it takes for you to be able to get a higher education, right? A book's heavier, so you are gonna pick up the rifle, like that's, you know what I mean? That,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
man. See, you always blow my, like, you made me, my mind's always like, ah. It just takes me, like, it just takes me there. But so,
Mm.
all right, so you said that, you came to into writing when you started working with the crew. So you when you were younger, you never really wrote, or how did that?
I came into processing adulthood when I joined the crew, when I came in contact with the crew. I had written before. I think one of my poems when I was like 12 or 13 was published in a PBS article. I don't remember. I remember that being on my mom's dresser. She had it pinned up on her
Aw.
mirror. Um, but I always wrote. My parents are divorced, and that was writing was another way for me to process. I mean, one of my mentors, and now one of my closest friends, Alan Wiseman, he he was my English teacher in high school, and he showed me the power of reading, the power of writing. And as adults today, he's getting ready to retire from teaching. Um, he still is guiding me in my writing and just being the best friend a person could have. So it started, uh, I think just maybe last month I found out that my grandmother, who is 83 years old, she writes poetry. I didn't know this, and I'm so upset that she never told me this before. But she wrote me a letter. Actually, I have one of her poems here. It says, "Press on, there is no such word as fail. Look noble on the gold is near. Ascend the mountains, press the gales. look upward, onward, never fair. And she would write little things like that
Oh,
to me all the time, and it just never clicked. Oh, this is if there's anything, if there's a poetry gene, that's where I get it from.
right. Oh,
Yeah,
it's definitely passed, it's passed down. I
yeah.
always think about it too, like, you know, like I think about how we can get, oops, my bad.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like when we have, um, what you call it? So there's that line of like, we have generational trauma, right? But we also have like generational resiliency and,
Mm,
talent, right?
mm,
So I think that's part of that.
mm.
Um, I that's so cute. I love that. That's amazing that you just find that out, and it's kind of like it's a really deep connection to your roots that you weren't even aware of. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's cool.
Mm.
So we could keep talking all night, but I wanna secure you if you can share one of your poems.
Yeah, yeah. I'll start with this one I wrote in 2020. It is, yeah, I wrote it summer of 2020, and you'll see in the kind of context will hopefully be obvious. You want me to just start anytime? Oh wait,
Yeah,
where
you
did
can
you
go.
go?
You can go
I
whenever
don't
you
see
want.
you anymore. Are you there
Oh, because I
still?
put you I put you so that you're on the whole screen.
Oh, I got you. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
All
on
right,
the
hold on.
spotlight right now.
Okay. I come from a place where sun kissed grandmothers with golden, melanated skin who could cook up a plate of curry goat and stew peas so good it'll make you say, don't worry about a thing. Pinch the wide brimmed noses of plump black babies to make their noses straighter. I come from a place where gorgeous black kinks, curls, and naughty dreadlocks chemically castrate the curve of their coils to make their hair straighter. I come from a place where there's a natural mystic flowing through and coursing through the skin of little black boys and girls who are sold bleaching cream to make their skin whiter. I come from a land of calipegious body, curvy, thick lips, hips, and thighs, of black skin and beautiful brown eyes. I come from a land of no woman, no cry. But only white bodies are dignified, while everything black is vilified. Misewa, Misepin. Unless you inhabit a black body, you can't know what it's like to be inside this skin prison under constant suspicion, existent contingent on its juxtaposition to white volition, a cage, a characteristic over which I do not preside. I did not choose this plane, this planet, nor this time, nor the color of this vehicle for my ride. But from this vantage point, mine eyes have been made sensitive to the violence inflicted upon others' lives, even when they turn their back to the violence inflicted upon mine. So while my heart bleeds from my racial battle fatigue,